60 Men Who Changed History, Salman al-Farsi. Part 01. The seeker after truth from Persia comes our hero this time. And from Persia many came to embrace Islam in the long run, and it made some of them extraordinary, unsurpassable in faith and knowledge in religion and worldly affairs. Islam profoundly impacts the countries it touches, influencing all aspects of their potential and capabilities. It encourages and celebrates the native genius of its people and followers. This is evident in the contributions of Muslim scholars from Persia in fields like philosophy, medicine, jurisprudence, astronomy, invention, and mathematics. These scholars achieved remarkable success, excelling in various fields such as administration and science during the flourishing first era of Islam. Despite coming from different nations, they were united by their shared religion. The Prophet, peace be upon him, had foretold the widespread propagation of his blessed religion. As ordained by his Almighty Lord, he had envisioned the scope of its spread. He accurately predicted the time, place, and moment for the spread of Islam. In his vision of the future, he saw Islam's influence spreading widely across the world, even reaching the highest levels of power. Day of Al-Khandaq. Salman al-Farsi, the Persian, bore witness to this and was firmly connected with what happened. That was on the day of Al-Khandaq, the trench, in the year 5. After Hijrah, when the leaders of the Jews approached Mecca to stir up the polytheists and form an alliance against the Prophet, peace be upon him, and the Muslims, asking the polytheists to enter upon a treaty for decisive battle to eradicate this new religion. The ungodly war was planned. Quraysh army and allies would attack Medina from outside, while the Bani Urayda would attack from within, behind the ranks of the Muslims, who would then fall prey and be crushed. One day, the Prophet, peace be upon him, and the Muslims were taken unaware by a huge well-armed army marching on Medina. The Quran depicts the scene thus: when they came against you from above you and from below you, and your eyes turned away, and your hearts reached to your throats, and you imagined vain thoughts about God. In that place, the believers were tried and shaken most severely. Surah Ams Stacho, 1 Cheats 30, Imad 3, verses 10 and 11. 24,000 fighters under the command of Abu Sufyan and Uyayna ibn Hisn were advancing on Medina to storm it and to lay siege to it in order to get rid of Muhammad, his religion, and his companions. This army did not represent the Quraysh alone, for they were in alliance with all the tribes, and all had vested interests that were threatened by Islam. It was a last and decisive attempt embarked on by all the enemies of the Prophet, peace be upon him, based upon individual, collective, and tribal interests. The Muslims were in a difficult and dangerous situation. The Prophet gathered his followers to discuss how to defend themselves against an attack. They needed to figure out the best way to protect Medina. Then Salman al-Farsi, a tall man with long, flowing hair whom the Prophet cared for deeply, looked around at Medina's landscape. He noticed the city was surrounded by hills and mountains, but also had some open areas that enemies could easily pass through. Salman had much experience in warfare and its tactics in his native Persia, so he proposed to the Prophet, peace be upon him, something which the Arabs had never seen before in warfare. It was the digging of a trench in the exposed places around Medina. Allah knows what could have been the position of the Muslims in that battle if they not dug the trench. Without it, the Muslims might have been in serious trouble. When Quraysh saw the trench, they were shocked and in despair. They camped outside Medina for a month, unable to enter the city. Then one night Allah sent a powerful storm that destroyed the enemy's camp. forcing them to retreat. Then Abu Sufyan announced to his forces that they should return to where they had come from. They were despondent and frustrated. While digging the trench, Salman worked alongside other Muslims, including the Prophet. They encountered a very hard rock that even Salman, who was strong and skilled, couldn't break. Despite his usual ability to break rocks easily, this one proved too stubborn. Everyone in the group tried to break it, but no one succeeded. Salman went to the Prophet, peace be upon him, to ask him to divert the trench around the challenging rock. The Prophet, peace be upon him, returned with Salman to see the rock himself. When he saw it, the rock broke, making a great light. Salman said that he himself saw that light shining upon Medina. The Prophet picked up the pickaxe and hit the rock a second time, and the rock broke further. Right after that, the Prophet loudly exclaimed, "Allahu Akbar, God is the greatest. I have been given the keys to Rome. Its red palaces have been lit for me, and my nation has conquered it." The Prophet, peace be upon him, hit the rock a third time. Then the rock shattered, and its glittering light was seen. The Prophet, peace be upon him, told them that he was now looking at the palaces of Syria, Yemen, and others like them, and the cities of the world over which the banner of Islam would flutter one day. The Muslims shouted in deep faith, "This is what Allah and His Prophet have promised us." Salman suggested digging the trench and was present when the Prophet broke the stubborn rock. He witnessed the light that appeared and heard the Prophet's predictions about future Muslim conquests. Later in his life, Salman saw these prophecies come true. He lived to see Islam spread to major cities in Persia, Rome, Yemen, Syria, Egypt, and Iraq. He witnessed the call to prayer being made from minarets across these lands, spreading Islam's message. Salman is sitting under a tree in Medina, sharing his incredible life story with guests. He tells them how he left his Persian religion, first becoming a Christian and later a Muslim. Salman explains that he gave up his father's wealth and comfortable life, choosing instead to travel through wild places in search of spiritual peace. During this journey, he faced many hardships, even being sold as a slave at one point. His search finally led him to meet Prophet Muhammad, which resulted in Salman embracing Islam. Now, as he sits in the shade, Salman is about to recount his amazing tale in his own words. How he met with the Prophet, peace be upon him, and how he came to believe in him. Now let us approach his great court and listen to his grand tale which he is recounting. "I come from Isfahan, from a place called Jai, and I was the most beloved son of my father, who was a figure of high esteem among his people. We used to worship fire. I devoted myself to fire worship until I became custodian of the fire which we lit and never allowed to be extinguished. My father had an estate. One day, he sent me there. I passed by a Christian church and heard them praying. I went in and saw what they were doing. I was impressed by what I saw in their prayers. I said, 'This is better than our religion.' I did not leave them until sunset, nor did I go to my father's estate, nor did I return to my father until he sent people to search for me. I asked the Christians about their prayers, which impressed me, and about the origin of their religion. They answered, 'In Syria.' I said to my father when I returned to him, 'I passed by people praying in a church of theirs, and I was impressed by their prayer, and I could see that their religion is better than ours.' He questioned me, and I questioned him, and then he put fetters on my feet and locked me up. Then I sent to the Christians, saying I had entered their religion, and I requested that whenever a caravan came from Syria, they should tell me before its return in order for me to travel with them, and so they did. What happened to Salman? Did he persuade his father? To find out, please watch part 2. Please like this video, share it, and subscribe so you can get automatic updates.